Well, we have Sadanand Dhume, a columnist with the Wall Street Journal, joining us from the US tonight, his time, almost midday our time. Sadanand, thanks very much. Great to see you again after a really long time. Your first thoughts on the way this election is going?
Well, I mean, it looks that it's pretty clear that Trump has won for all intents and purposes. I mean, I think the TV channels are going to go through the paces and so on, but it seems at this point that he will certainly be the 47th president of the United States. And the Trump era, which has been, we've had 10 years of the Trump era. Had he lost tonight, I think would have been fair to say that we were going to see the end of the Trump era. We're obviously not going to see the end of the Trump era. And he is going to be the next president. So it's a sort of, obviously this has huge implications for American politics, for the Republican Party, for many, many things, for geopolitics. So where does one begin? But it's a very big night, and I think he's going to win and win very comfortably.
And why do you think he's going to win? What do you think is the primary driver?
What do you mean? You mean the electoral math?
Is it immigration? Is it the fact that maybe the Americans are not ready for a woman president? What is it?
I mean, I think it'll be a combination of things, right? I think that the economy was a very big factor. I think a lot of people, a lot of ordinary voters just, felt that they had better lives 4 years ago. Things were cheaper. Things like gas was cheaper. Groceries were cheaper. That was one thing. I think immigration was a massive blunder by the Biden administration, where they basically, allowed many millions of people to pour over the southern border. And Trump wielded that issue very effectively. I'm not, personally so sure that this has has a lot to do with gender. I think Kamala Harris, we forget, was a, very weak candidate even in 2019 when she ran. She basically had to drop out immediately, almost before a vote was, cast in 2009, because she just wasn't a very effective campaigner. Obviously, she was a very good campaigner and a very effective politician in California. But when she was exposed to national competition, she did not do so well. That said, I think she ran a fairly reasonable campaign given the circumstances, but she was not the strongest candidate. And so when it looked like Biden was certainly going to lose, the Democrats were in a tough position because they didn't have enough time to organize a primary and come up with a more competitive candidate. Yeah. And I think she was just not a battle-tested candidate.
Sorry, we had just if we could go back to those pictures, we had the first live pictures from Florida where Trump supporters have gathered, and I just saw the New York Times, Alex, reporting that apparently in Kamala Harris's campaign headquarters, they've muted the TVs, so that's not a good sign. I don't think they're very optimistic about things turning around from here. So we'll come back to that footage in just a moment. Prannoy, you want to throw in a question?
Yeah, I just wanted to ask you, Sadanand, that is America going to be a more divided, divisive society? Is there going to be a little bit of hatred coming in? Or is that just an election campaign tactic?
Prannoy, this is a divided, if by that mean you mean politically divided, this is a politically divided and politically polarized society, and that would have been the case regardless of who had won, right? I mean, you basically have about half the country that feels very passionate about one person, right, and the other half of the country who can't stand him. And so,
has he tried to intensify the divisions? And will they, not just politically divided, will there be divisions within neighborhoods and within communities?
So I personally did not experience anything like that in the last 4 years when he was president. And if you look at his coalition, right, I mean, there's an enormous amount of religious and racial diversity. Look at the main people around him, right? Tulsi Gabbard and Vivek Ramaswamy. I mean, these are two very prominent American Hindus. You have, people like his lawyer, Harmeet Dhillon. You have people like the, Republican candidate for Senate, Hung Kao. So I think that, what's one of the paradoxes about Trump is that, even though people have sort of, portrayed him as this divisive figure, and it's certainly true that much of his rhetoric, has sort of often, he has said things that people don't say in politics, right? Some of the language he's used to describe Mexicans, for example, in his first campaign. But if you look at the Republican Party and how the party has evolved on his watch, I would argue that it is a more multiracial party than it was. And we're already seeing that in the numbers, right?
Good
If you look
point.
at
Yeah,
how
good
Trump has
point.
done Asian Americans, with blacks, with Hispanics, he's actually performed better than Mitt Romney did. So I think that a lot of people who are sort of, especially working class voters. I was just speaking with a Republican pollster for my Wall Street Journal column about this. He said that look, Trump is building a multiracial working class coalition, and that's just a fact if you look at his supporters. Now, is all of his rhetoric always sort of, is it very finely judged? Does he sometimes say things that are awfully crude? Yes. But do I think that the United States is going to suddenly become some racially polarized country? Quite the contrary. I think that because of the sort of cult of personality around Trump, basically anyone can be a Trump supporter, right? You just put on that red baseball cap and you're in. So this is kind of, to my mind, this is actually quite it's a distinctive phenomenon,
That's
and it's
good to
quite
hear.
different
Good to
from what
hear.
we see, for example, in Europe.